Well, good Tuesday evening, one and all. Welcome back to Racers News Network Live. He will not be joining us this evening. He's got some stuff going on. Um, but we have a frequent guest on our show that we absolutely love to talk to. The wonderful Harley Wolf competes in NHRA Division One Super Street, Mid Atlantic Super Series Super Street, and the cool thing is that Carly and her family had developed a really awesome relationship with a lot of their sponsors. They've gotten a chance to meet with a lot of the manufacturers, and it'd be kind of cool to learn a little bit more about that. And then obviously what her plans are for 2025. And we'll look back on 2024 to see what she thought and how things went. So, with that being said, please welcome our guest, Carly Wolf. How are you, Carly?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. How is how's the winter down in New Jersey treating you?
Well, it was like 70 today, so absolutely beautiful day. I just didn't get to enjoy it because I tutored till 4:30 and then came home, cooked dinner. So
There you go.
beautiful day. It was a nice drive home.
Well, it's like, obviously I live in New Hampshire. When it gets above like 40 degrees, it's shorts and t-shirts time.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks we're crazy.
Oh, I was cracking the windows in our classroom. I'm like, we're getting the fresh air in. It's so nice out. Like, I love when we have days like this.
Now, that's one of the cool things about Carly, and we've actually discovered this a lot about competitors, not just in Division One, but in racing in general. She is a school teacher. Now, obviously, she doesn't teach automotive, not that she couldn't, but why don't you talk a little bit about your chosen field?
Yeah, so I've been teaching professionally for 6 years. This is year six. Um I most of my experience is like fourth grade, like upper elementary, taught second for 1 year. It's my first year in fifth. And for the last couple of years, I just taught language arts. So it's kind of, with the exception of when I tutored and everything, it's kind of nice to be like teaching everything again and to be able to teach science and math. So it's funny. We're learning about measurements and time. So we're doing lapse time. And then we get to take a field trip this year. And I've never been in charge of picking a field trip. So I got to pick a field trip this year. And I was like struggling. I'm like, where do we go? And I got this card like in my teacher mailbox, and it was for Legoland. And it said race car workshop. So I'm like, sold, we're booked. Like, so they have a workshop for like third to fifth graders on like building like race cars. Like that lesson that I did in my student teaching with Hot Wheels, they just did it and made it better because they didn't have college student resources. So it's just nice to tie in the STEM approach with the kids because they are our future engineers and they're fascinated by it. Like, actually, one of my students right now, his grandfather used to race stock and super stock. So,
Oh,
and it's funny because Antron Brown grew up 10 minutes away from where my school is. So at PRI, he signed them all hero cards. And that's how it got brought up. They saw the Wally on the card, and he's like, I have one of those. I'm like, no, you don't. He's like, no, seriously. Like, he came in with a post it note the next day, had his grandfather's name, stock, super stock. So, small world.
that's awesome. Now, the cool thing is when we've talked in the past, you brought your race car to school and you've integrated your race car
Mhm.
program into your classroom program.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was waiting for you.
Oh, I did. Oh, you disagree.
I'm just like, yeah, I'm like, it's still going.
Now, obviously, since you switched schools, switched grades, do you plan on continuing doing that?
Yeah, I'd love to. My administration is kind of on board with it. The last I talked to him about it, my goal would be to bring the dragster and let them be the first ones to see the finished product. Um, but yeah, I mean, they're fascinated by it. It's a shame because it's like I'm 30 minutes from what was ACO, and school's about 40 minutes from what was ACO, and about 40 minutes from what was E Town. And the parents like, oh, like we want to come see. And it's like, well, our closest race is Maple Grove or it's Cecil, and it's the tolls and stuff. So it was kind of hard losing that just because it was so close to home, no tolls, and yeah, I have families
Right.
that are very supportive of it.
Now you realize, of course, if you bring the Draxi, you gotta fire it up for
I just have to make sure it's when pre-K is not taking a nap. Because when they hear big block power, they will, even my little small block, that thing is just loud. So
Right.
that would wake up preschool in a heartbeat. So just kind of working around their nap time. But
That's awesome. So 2024, why don't we kind of hit on that? How did the year treat you?
it was rough. I kept losing by 1,000th of a second. I'm like, I'm doing everything right, and it's just not good enough. Like, I had 20 total packages, 30 total packages, teens, and it was like, all right, like early, like go home, second, third round. And I'm like, this is rough. And then like, I think what irked me more was like, we're pretty sure a delay box went bad like halfway through the season because like we were throwing numbers in it and the car's just not slowing down. It's like 1082. So it's like, all right, throw a bunch of timer in it, 1082. Throw more timer in it, 1082. And it's like, all right, like let's try taking timer out, 1096. And we're like, that's not my car. So like we're trying to get runs and it's like every track is crowded when you're trying to do like a normal test and tune, so you can't back anything up. So we tried pulling the throttle stop off and the car's printing tickets. So we're like, it's not the car. So eventually we worked down to the delay box and I only got a handful of passes running the throttle stop before we had to park it because, end of the season. But that was a big curveball because like it took us half a season to figure it out because like we thought it was us going crazy because we're pretty sure it went bad the second race of Numidia because it was fine for the divisional, and we're pretty sure when we went into the open, something went crazy in the box and just,
That
I don't
was
know.
it.
Yeah, it was just nothing made sense. Like we're like looking at him, we're like, nothing's adding up. Like, and we're trying everything. Like nothing worked. Like, so we're pretty sure that was it. So that was the hardest part of my season.
Now, is that something you could send out, get tested and repaired, or is it just as easy to go buy a new one?
I just bought a new one at that point. I mean, I it I have the cheap version of like the digital
Okay.
delay boxes. Like I don't have the mega ones. So by the time I was done, it was just cheaper to do that. I'll probably still send it out and have it fixed just as a spare, but it was just I didn't expect that. That was a curveball. That
Cool. Now, you also ran some of the Mid-Atlantic stuff. How did that season work out for you?
was pretty good. Just another one of just tough races, but top five finish. Rob always puts on a great race, so we try to support them. It's just this year is a little tricky because his first race is like the same weekend as 27 other races going on. So it's like I had to pick and choose, and we're going to Charlotte for that one. So just because it's my spring break, so taking a little
Okay.
mini vacation. So I'm gonna miss his first one, which kind of stinks. But
Right. Oh, that's fair enough. Hey, yeah, that was the other thing too. Last year, you did a little bit more traveling, or well, travel to some places you hadn't been yet, right?
yeah, trying to think if I had any new tracks last year. It was like all kind of a blur, but I definitely tried to hit some more bracket racing because like that's how I started. So I just love bracket racing. So we hit MIR a couple times and hit US 13. We tried to get there more, but we only got there once. So did Numidia a couple times, but I can't remember if we hit any new tracks or not. But everything was just kind of a blur last year. It was just like go, 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 was racing every weekend. So I was home for like 2 days because I was switching jobs. Like I'd come home, do like 2 interviews, go back on the road. Like I'd just be home for Monday, Tuesday, then back on the road Wednesday, Thursday. Like I was never home that whole
Right.
time.
Now, with being a teacher, do you try to set your schedule in the summer break, or do you kind of say, okay, we should be able to go here, even though I get out of work Friday at 3 o'clock or whatever?
Yeah, that's the thing. I try to do it heavy in the summer, but some races still fall before the summer. So a lot of times like we're driving through the night and it's like people are parking like a day or two before the race and we're rolling in outside the gate, sleeping in the car like before. That's what we do with Epping. We drive through the night so I don't have to take that extra day off. But
Right.
it's hard because like I don't think people realize like when you teach, like you only get like 3 personal days. So you have to be very smart with them. So I'm
Right.
always at work. I haven't had day off since December, like of like time, so which was PRI. So gotta be very smart with your personal days if you're teaching.
Now, obviously, we've talked to you a bunch of times over the last few years, and one thing that we've always brought up, and I'll bring it up again, you have a dragster now too.
Yeah. Where is
You
it?
you took the plunge. Now, is it going to be a dot 90 car, or is it going to be, are you going to go for top dragster, or yes to both?
It's a good question. um, we're hoping to have it out this year. That's our goal. My door car engine's going back in on Sunday, but our goal is to have the car out. I'd like to be testing for super comp in it, but it has 2 carburetors. So I don't necessarily know if it's going to be super comp ready in the first year. So it might be dabble with some bracket racing and some top dragster because 2 carburetors is going to be hard to figure out throttle stops for. So,
Right,
and the guy who built the engine, typically my dad builds my stuff, but I couldn't pass up this combination for the money and we picked it up from the engine builder. And out in Division 3, he was like one of the pioneers of running the 2 throttle stops. So he tried to tell me exactly how we're going to do it. So it's just, you don't know until you try it. So he gave us the direction to go. Just got to make sure we're pointing the steering wheel the right way. But
that's kind of like it sounds like one of those deals where you just kind of look at him, you smile and shake your head and go, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
okay. You have any questions? No, I'm all set. Okay, then,
yeah.
yeah.
Like I like put the notes in my phone from like 5 years ago, but I'm like, I don't know if I completely understand everything he's saying. Like I was just, it's like you stare at him and you take in about 70% of what he says, but there's still like
Right,
30% left on the table. But we'll see. So definitely want to do some bracket racing with it. That's for sure. That's why we bought it. But it's gonna be a learning curve. I haven't been in one in a long time, so
right, cool. Um, Now you've also one of the things we mentioned was you've developed a really cool relationship with a lot of manufacturers and a lot of your personal sponsors. And you've attended PRI 2 years in a row?
I think this is, well, with the exception of the COVID year, I think this was year 7, maybe.
Okay, okay,
Been going out since 2017, I think was our first year.
okay, cool.
Uh,
How do you
yeah,
think that's helped your program?
I think I think it was Megan Meyer who said it, but like I could be wrong. But like you don't go into PRI and like pitch for a sponsorship there. Um, some people have done it, they've been successful, but like a lot of what PRI is like building those strong relationships. And once you have those relationships, that's how things kind of like blossom from there. I mean, it's like you talk to I guess I'm in a little bit of a different position because my dad builds my engines. So we talk to these people on the phone instead of having somebody build our engine and do it for us. So it's like we were working with crane cams before it was now not there. But we met one of our techs who we had on the phone. We met him at PRI, had that long standing relationship. So now that he's at Bullet, he's very critical to our program because you have that relationship. Jessel, that one was from a friend who kind of helped us get where we are today. But it's like you go and you talk to these people and like you build these relationships, and once they get to know you, they start following you on social media, they see what your brand image is about. That's how those relationships develop from there, and then they start helping you. It's not just like, hey, can you sponsor my race car? Like, I'll put your sticker on my car or I'll make a post for you. It's also being an ambassador outside of social media as well, like at the track, like the stuff that they don't see. So being knowledgeable about the product, why it works. Like, I ran valve train components before Jessel and they were okay, but they didn't live. And then I switched to Jessel and it's like we saw a horsepower gain, we saw stuff living. So it's like once you have the knowledge, then you can explain why the product works. It's not just like it's good, buy it, like explaining why it works.
Right, you've got the knowledge to back it up.
Yeah, and the experience because we've been through a lot in our years with this car. It's been the hand-me-down projects from it's like people would outgrow stuff and they'd give it to us and we'd put it on and try to make it work. So we know what works and what doesn't for the most part at this point with that engine at least. But
Cool. Now, also, as far as like marketing yourself, you started a YouTube page a while back, and it's taken off
yeah,
insanely, and you do an awesome job with it during the race season.
thank you. It's very hard.
A lot, well, like a lot of the ones I follow, they, you'll probably say the same thing, is that they say, okay, I did an hour's worth of filming at this particular event, but when I get home, I'm doing 6, 7 hours of editing to
Yeah.
put it all to make it what I want it to be and what it should be. Is that
Mhm.
pretty much true?
Yeah, pretty much. I think that's what kind of bit us like 2 years ago when we first started. It was easier for me to stay on top of it. But like last year, again, with like us traveling so much and then interviews on the road, it was kind of harder to stay on top of it because it takes so long to put them together. Like, honestly, probably between an hour and a half to like 3 hours to do it. And it's like, I struggle if I don't do it in one sitting. So then you're sitting there for like 3 hour and a half, 3 hours consecutively working on the same thing to the point where you're tired of seeing it. And yeah, that's the hardest part. Like getting the content's not that bad. Getting good content's hard, but making it cohesive and flow is that's the challenging part.
Right. Now, who does the bulk of your filming?
Dad.
Yeah,
If you can't tell, sometimes his videos are fantastic. And then other times you get so distracted by watching the car because, like, again, we're going for consistency. And next thing you know, we're looking at the tree. But
right,
that's what makes it realistic at the end of the day. Because it's like you watch so many racers that also YouTube, and it's just like they have top notch content because they have filming crews and stuff like that. I'm not paying somebody to come and film for me. Um, we're doing this for our sponsors. Actually, we like doing it too because it's like living back that day. Like, oh, I'll never forget this race, but like sometimes you look back and it's just nice to see it play out in front of your eyes again like a year later.
right,
So I like that sometimes we don't have the best footage per se, and it's sometimes like a little grainy just because it makes it realistic, makes it attainable. Most people don't realize that the sport really is attainable. It's not just who has the most money. Which is what we try to prove with our YouTube. But
But you do an awesome job. I mean, like I said, everyone that I've seen, you do a great job.
thank you.
You really do.
It's it's different. It's hard. I feel like there's so many racers on YouTube. It's such a saturated market, but finding the quality, finding good information, that was something like before we took this on, like we kind of went through people's YouTube channels and there was a lot of like information gaps. I'd say, especially on our combination, because there's a lot of Ford racers that are like vlogging their stuff and it's just we've been through it all, so we're like, oh well, we did that like 5 years ago and we learned that one, so then we try to educate the people because like we don't want them making the same mistakes. We've seen what works, we know what doesn't, we've been through it all. Stock block, like how twisting the chassis up before we were with Team Z, like we know how to make it work at this point, so like we try to help people skip the struggles along the way. They just got to find our channel.
Right, right. Cool. Again, it's a great marketing tool. You give your name to whoever, and you
Mhm.
say, "Oh, hey, by the way, we have this page. You know, give it, check it out when you have time." And they
Yeah.
can look at it and they can tell that you're the real deal. You're not just somebody looking for free stuff. You're looking for pieces, parts,
Mhm.
help, guidance, tech advice, whatever, you know. So very cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, you take what you can get. Like, I mean, that's how, again, I said it before, that's how my car started. Like, it was people who had, particularly my S197, my red car. It was somebody who outgrew their torque converter. So they threw a torque converter at me. So it's like you start with that, then you start making a little bit of money, and then you grow. And then I got my Fox body. People were outgrowing stuff. So it's like you try to give back because people helped us out along the way. So we try to give back to people who are trying to join the sport. But
Awesome. So what have you been up to over this winter with your cars?
yeah, so engine's about to go back in Sunday. We pulled it just because our last pass at US 13 for my last race this season, the car slowed down a lot and put an air cleaner on it and we just couldn't get the air fuel ratio right. So we ended up hurting a head gasket. But we took the engine apart. Everything looked good with the exception of like just the indicators that had a little bit. So that's getting ready to go back in Sunday. Got a chassis cert coming up next weekend. Uh Trying to get the dragster done and yeah, just focusing on getting myself physically back into shape because I don't think people realize how much strength it actually takes to race these cars. I mean, yeah, you can not be in shape, but it's a lot harder when you're not in shape. So just trying to get back physically, mentally, get the car ready. It's always a wild dash to get everything done.
Now I know you work out a lot. Do you go more for the physically brute side of your workout, or do you go for the endurance side of your workout?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've been back and consistent since COVID when they reopened gyms. And I would say for the first probably 2.5, 3 years, it was like endurance, endurance, endurance. And people were like, switch it up, go into weightlifting. Like I was weightlifting a little bit, but not like what I am now. And it's been about 2 years now where it's pretty much heavy weightlifting and then like maybe 30 minutes of cardio at the end of a workout, not at the start. And
Gotcha.
it's been night and day. Like, I mean, the cardio kept me like able to like deal with like the heat in the car, which I still get, but like the weightlifting, like it's just it gives you that discipline, it gives you that focus, like the right mentality. Like I don't know how to explain it. It just totally changes your body for the better. So yeah, it's every morning, 5 o'clock in the morning for like 2 hours.
Oh,
But yeah.
I'm still dead asleep.
Well, I look at it this way. You have to choose your battles, and I know I'm not going to have the energy after work. I also don't want to work out with broccoli haired teenagers in tank tops, pajama pants, and Crocs.
That
So
was that was that was the most apt description I think I've honestly ever heard. Broccoli.
no, it's a whole fit. It's a whole fit. These high school kids with their broccoli hair, their tank tops, their pajama pants, and Crocs. So you kind of like pick your poison. So at least when I'm going at 5 o'clock in the morning, there's like a whole four people there. So nobody's awake. Just get it done over with. And I I honestly I could probably spend like 3 hours there, 4 hours, but I do have a job.
Go over in your corner, do your workout and grab a shower and head to work.
Yeah. I stop at home, shower on the way home, and just keep going east while I'm at my job. But I'm a fan of it. I'm a big proponent of working out, staying fit mentally, physically, being your best self, like discipline, mind over matter, all that Dave and Grogan stuff.
That's awesome. All right, so 2025, what does it look like for your racing program, young lady?
Hoping to hit a MIR at the end of the month to do some big money bracket racing. Uh, that's our goal. Hopefully, test for Super Street in April. Head to Charlotte at the end of the month because, again, it's just that one weekend, which actually happens to be my sister's birthday weekend. There's every race under the sun that weekend, like Rob's race, the Flings are that weekend, Charlotte's that weekend, US 13's that weekend. Like, had to pick and choose. Um, Run Division 1 schedule. Uh, Hopefully we don't have any snow because now that Columbus is IHRA, we will be probably doing the Norwalk double because they're running Super Street for the national. So we'll go out for the double and then go back for the national. And
Gotcha.
yeah, just keep running Division 1 stuff. Find me a bracket race whenever I'm off because dad can never have an off weekend. I just find races and say we're going here.
Go, 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 right?
That's how we ended up in Indy. Cause hurt my engine. This was years ago, but I hurt my engine a Tuesday night at ACO and we got it fixed like maybe a week later, got about 3 passes on it. And I'm like, do you want to go out to Indy? And he's like, not really. And I'm like, well, I already paid. So we're going to Indy. So next thing you know, I was driving to Indy with 3 passes on an engine. And he's like, well, we've done dumber, which is what we did when we went to Piedmont with 3 passes on an engine, a brand new
Right,
engine. But
right.
yeah.
Cool. Now, how are you liking the new tracks on the Mid-Atlantic series?
Mhm. Mason Dixon was incredibly smooth. Um, I always kind of get a little nervous with the new track just because like you don't know what to really expect. So I walked the track, like not like on it, like I walked against it for the first pass, and their scoreboards are like significantly before the finish line there. So I'm like, okay, I'm not exactly 100% sure where the finish line was, but I'm like, I know it's way past the scoreboard. So as I was going down the track, I found it obviously. The guy I raced my first time shot, he dumped at like the 1,000, and I saw the nose come down, and I'm like, there's like another 300 feet to go. So it's like, you always try to get familiar with a new track because I learned that quickly. Like the first time I went, first and only time I went to South Mountain, I like walked it, but I didn't like fully walk it. Like, oh, that runoff looks like a decent chunk, and then you're actually experiencing it, and it's on a bend. So I learned to really familiarize myself with the track before going down it. But
Cool.
I liked Mason Dixon. I like US 13 too, but I know that probably won't be on the Mid Atlantic schedule.
Right. And now, because you're in the southern part of New Jersey, is that correct?
Yeah,
All right.
30 minutes.
So,
What was ACO?
okay. All right. So are the racers down in your area still feeling the effects of losing Echo?
I'd say so. A lot of the bracket racers that I ran ACO points with went to US 13. A little bit went to Maple. Some went back up to Island. Some were at Numidia. Like they're all kind of sprawled, but it's like the consistent thing was like ACO was home. Like, and I think that's what makes it so hard because like that's where we tested. Like, I don't always have the opportunity to go to a divisional test and tune on Thursday. So it's like sometimes you're coming in cold because you don't have ACO on Tuesday nights anymore. Like you don't have Friday nights at ACO. And it's like we were testing a lot at Cecil, but their car count is astronomical because we all lost ACO. So it's like you're lucky if you're getting like 2 or 3 passes because it's just, I mean, you're talking like over 100, 200 cars for a test and tune at Cecil because it's like everybody just has to flock to one place now. So
Right,
it's great for Cecil, but it's hard on the racers because like you're not getting the data you need.
right,
So I think we all see it. I think that's what makes us all reluctant to change things. Like I'd love to put a 9.5 deck in my car, but it makes us reluctant to do it because it's like, how do you get the data on this thing? How do you tune this thing? Like you don't have ACO anymore. You don't have E-Town. So just makes you scared to change things because of it.
right. Stick makes you want to, as much as you want to change, it makes you also stick with what you have and works.
Yeah. And that was the thing. Like I'd love to go to a 9.5 deck, like get a bigger engine because I'm pretty sure I have the smallest engine in Super Street at the majority of the races. And I know we could make a lot of power easier with a 9.5 deck because we're making really good power with what we have, but it's hard on our stuff
Right,
because you're squeezing every little bit out of such a small engine. But like again, like we don't have a place to test. So it's like, do you bite the bullet and try it and hope that you can get it figured out in a couple passes? Or that's what makes it challenging. It's a hard
right.
decision.
Gotcha. So, all right, why don't you kind of fill everybody in about your Super Street car?
It's definitely unique for the class. I'll give it that. Um, it's pretty heavy. It's about 30-50 with me in it. Hatchback Fox body Mustang, small tire car, 3-speed that is manually shifted because it's more fun to shift it yourself. As long as you hit all the shifts right, which makes Dad proud. Um, it's got an 8.2 deck, 363 small block Ford built by my dad. So what makes that engine kind of like unique is nothing is custom in that engine with the exception of the cam. Like off the shelf pistons, like stuff that you could buy from Summit, like jegs from a catalog. And it's been 985 in the middle of the summer. So I know there's a lot on the table with that car and it's just trying to tune it, but it's a little beast. I have to say that that thing spins. It'll spin up to like 8 grand, 82, like on the right day. So it's just total opposite of what most people are running in this class. And it's probably making my life 10 times harder, but that's what makes it fun. If it were easy,
Now,
it'd be fun.
right, yeah, it's the old saying, if anybody could do it, whatever.
Yeah, we try to keep it like street appearing because it could essentially be a street car. So like we can show like, yeah, you can run 1090 with a little budget car. You don't need big tire, big block. Like it helps a lot. We don't need it.
Right. Now, do you ever wish you had gone like I'll just go with the big tire side of things. Do you ever wish you went big tire?
In my first few years, first one, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Because trying to dial the throttle stop in on the small tire was that was one of the most challenging things because it's like particularly before I had this transmission in it, like the Pro Brake, because it's like you're trying to leave hard to get every little bit on the light that you can, and then you're spinning. And then it's like, okay, so you figure out how to get it to spin and how to get everything to work. And then all of a sudden it starts cooking. So it's like, it was definitely a big challenge, but it made me more astute at like tuning, and it made me a better driver because of it. Like, it really helps me get familiar with my car. Like, I can feel the slightest thing and I'm like, okay, that had to be like 300. Like, I know the way that my car leaves now because like we did all that tuning. But what's funny about this car is I technically didn't buy it, but I bought it. Like, that's, yeah. So we went to look at the car, and like I'm getting familiar with the car, like just like looking around at it. My dad's like asking the girl who previously owned it, her father, questions. And my mom goes, "We'll take it." And my dad and I are looking at each other like, we didn't talk about this. Like, we didn't discuss this at all. And I paid for the car. So my mom pulled the trigger on purchasing the car, but I had to pay for it. So it's like, I love my car. I wouldn't change anything about it. I think it probably would have been better for me to go into like at least a mini tubbed car. But
Gotcha.
yeah, it made a great story. So you make do with what you have. And then we partnered with Team Z, which they're like the small tire gurus. So it was gonna be right eventually, one way or the other. We have the best suspension company for a Fox body in the business, so on board.
Cool. Now, for those that may not know, what is the typical size tire that a super street car runs, roughly?
I'd say probably like around, I've seen 30s. I'd say 30s. I think Keith is like 33. I want to say he's like 33 because I looked at his tires once. I'm like, they're not much smaller than my dragster tires because my
Right.
dragster's 33 and a half. I'd say between 30 and 33, probably closer on like the 33 side.
Now, what size tire do you run?
28, 10 and a half. I can't get anything bigger in there without mini tubbing it.
Gotcha. All
So
right.
we had to shave some stuff off to get the slicks in. The drag radials weren't as bad, but like the way that our Fox was, it needed a lot of trimming to get it in because when the slicks grew, it was kicking stuff off. So
Gotcha. Cool.
totally
So
different.
now it's you, your dad,
Mhm.
and your mom. That is essentially what makes up your
Mhm.
race team during the summer,
And
correct?
Bailey, my dog.
And Bailey, yes. I
Can't forget Bailey.
can't forget Bailey. He'll yell at me next time he sees me.
She's the most famous one of us all. Yeah, very, very small. I have an older sister, but she's not into racing at all. We're polar opposites. She took my name. Her name is Shelby. So everybody tells my parents they really messed up because she's named after Carol Shelby. So they say all the time, they're like, man, they should have named you Shelby. But yeah, very small. A lot of races, it's just my dad and I. Like when I first started, it was just my dad and I. We'd go run ACO high school challenge. We'd have one water bottle to last us through the day, sit under the bleachers at ACO so we wouldn't fry. And it was, yeah, my dad bent over backwards to make sure I could race because like my mom was not on board for the longest time. So,
She just didn't want anything to do with it, or she didn't want you racing.
well, the funny thing is both my parents raced at one point. Um, my dad had a GTO, we had a Firebird, my mom had a Cuda. They were racing down at ACO, like test and tune stuff, front streets of Philly. And my dad basically gave up on his Pontiacs. He's a big Pontiac guy. Gave up on his Pontiacs for my mom's Cuda. And then they had my sister and just kind of like walked away from it. I grew up, I only remember going to ACO a couple times. I grew up like loving my dirt bike because I got a dirt bike when I was like 3. So that's kind of like where my love of motorsports came in. I remember seeing like the motocross track at ACO and saying to my dad I
Gotcha.
wanted to race on it. And he's like, absolutely not. You will get eaten alive because they didn't have like a beginner's night. And he's like, I could just imagine like a 5-year-old getting landed on. But I mean, it was just like I only remember going a handful of times to ACO, but like something just kind of like always just like lingered in the back of my head. So when I got my Mustang when I was 16 and then I'm 17 and you can't go fast on the street, I'm just like, I want to go race it at ACO. So when I was like, are you sure? Like, do you actually want to do this? And I was like, yeah, like let's go race it at ACO. So I was a junior in high school. It was a Friday night test and tune. I was taking my SATs the next morning and I'm racing at ACO. And yeah, after that, it was just like silly stuff like, oh, I just want to hit 100 miles an hour in the quarter mile. And that's like, well, then I want a 13-second pass. And it's like, well, then I want a 12-second pass. And then somebody handed me the keys to their 10-second car. And yeah, it was all over after that. They should never
You were done after that, right?
they should never done that. They were like, here, like take my 10-second car. Go have fun. Like go have fun.
Cool.
19 years old in somebody's car that I knew for like 5 minutes. Just yeah, go have fun.
How about it, kid?
But yeah, that
That's
was
awesome. That is really cool. Now, all right, so you had your street car, you have your dragster, you have your Mustang. Looking at the ginormous picture in front of you,
Mhm.
what is the one thing you would jump in a heartbeat if somebody offered you the chance?
Top alcohol funny car.
The, judging by the pictures of this past weekend, there's going to be a hell of a lot of them for sale.
I've I remember going to my first national event at Maple Grove. I remember seeing a funny car. And I turned to my this was Nitro, but I turned to my dad. I'm like, I want to race that, and he's like, absolutely not. Like he's like, now figure out why I'm telling you no. And I was like looking at I don't know if it was hero cards or what, but somebody had like the wheelbase on their hero cards, and then I guess maybe I was looking at Brittany's dragster. I'm like, oh, the wheelbase is shorter in a funny car, and he's like, okay, you figured it out. Now you're not racing one. So I I just something's just different about funny car. Like I don't know if it's
But
the name too, but
clutch car or converter car?
I'll take whatever I can get.
Yeah,
Whatever you can put me in, I'll jump in it. But I mean, I've always wanted to be a person that could race practically everything. So I never really pass up on the opportunity to like race anything. The only time I passed up was when my dad was trying to teach me how to drive his Mustang, which was stick. And he's like, all right, now you got to go racing in pro tomorrow. I'm like learning the night before. I'm like, I don't think
not
we're
so
ready
much.
for that one. That one's a little, you're cutting it close there.
That's
But
awesome.
that's what makes you the better driver is you learn how to race anything. So
Very cool. That is the first time somebody said it has said alcohol funny car. Out of all the times I've asked that question.
I like to be unique.
Usually it's pro mod or pro stock.
Yeah. I mean, I go top sportsman too, but I can't afford that. Top dragster was significantly cheaper. So,
Right.
but I like to be different.
You should go ask Freddie if he could try the 57 just for fun sometime.
That's oh, if something happened to it, I look at that thing. That thing's too nice.
Not so much.
I look at it. It's too nice. But I don't know. I tried anything I could get my hands on. It's how I was
Fair
kind of.
enough. Very cool. All right. So now for the fun part. You gotta test your memory.
Oh Lord.
Everybody that helps make your program happen.
All right. We'll start off with like the beginning. um, Team Z Motorsports, fantastic. Windsor Automotive, Fonz, Jessel. We're with New England Gear Polishing this year. So
Cool.
they came on board, they helped us out. Liberty's done stuff for us. Wire Care. Are you going down the list?
I don't have it.
I
It's
I
all on you.
I actually I put it in my phone before. I was prepared, but I wanted to see how many I could get off just the top of my head. Oh, Rhino Power, Premier Lubricants, we're a Ben Pilla, and we're doing some stuff with Titus performance this year too. And that was
Cool.
everybody. I got the majority of them off the top of my head after being up for since 4 o'clock in the morning. So I did a good job.
Now, if people want to follow your racing antics in 2025, where do they find you?
It's pretty much Carly Wolf Racing on everything. We're gonna be doing a lot more with YouTube this year. So yeah, we're gonna change it up a little bit. But so YouTube's probably the best place, or Facebook. YouTube or
Cool.
Facebook. But Carly Wolf Racing on TikTok and then Instagram too. But
There you go. Awesome.
TikTok's still here.
Yeah, that varies by the day.
But yeah.
Cool. Well, make sure you tell your dad, unless he said, because I see you keep looking up, so I assume it's either your mother or your father watching you.
No, dad's actually working. He works the night shift now. So he's
Oh,
probably
okay.
streaming it live right now and fixing something.
Well, Mr. Wolf, if you are listening and watching, I will have it on my YouTube page ever so shortly. I promise. Because I got a stern talking to by your from your dad over the summer about making sure that I continue to put stuff on YouTube.
It's that consistency. That's where the subscribers come from. It's just like one day it just blew up out of nowhere. Like over like the course of a week, it was just like videos ran views and just people coming in. So it's that consistency thing.
Cool. Well, listen, as always, best of luck in 2025. We'll see you at New England. I'll see you at Lebanon Valley.
Mhm.
And have an awesome year.
Thank you.
You're
Thanks
very
for
welcome.
having me.
All right. All right, everybody. Carly Wolf is our guest this evening. And like I said, check her out on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and definitely check out her YouTube page. Search her on YouTube. Give her a subscription, give her a subscribe, give her a like, give her a follow. Um, awesome racing, awesome family. And again, good luck, Carly. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. See you
You're
soon.
all right. Take care.
Bye.
All right, everybody. We will be back next Tuesday night. Hopefully, Pete will be here. Keep me company. I get lonely being the only host. I hope he's watching and he feels bad. But, anyways, like I said, we will be back next Tuesday night, 7 o'clock, live on Zoom, streaming on our Facebook page. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you all soon.